Okay. We're going to start the meeting now, Bob, if that's good with you.
Yes, start the meeting.
Okay. Hello, everyone, and if we could mute our microphones, please. Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you. Good evening. My name is Karen Lee, and I'm the Community Preservation Committee Administrator. Today is May 2nd, 2023, and the time now is exactly 6 o'clock. Welcome to the last round of interviews for the community preservation funds. I'm going to just read this message about our remote meetings due to the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic as it relates to the open meeting law. The Springfield Community Preservation Committee will continue to meet remotely until further notice. Meetings are held at 6 p.m. on the first Tuesday of the month. The minutes and agendas for all meetings are available on the meeting portal of the city website. Meetings are live and recorded for viewing on our Facebook page, and public comments and contact information. Email cpc@springfieldcityhall.com or call 413-530-1268. I'm going to turn the meeting over to Bob McCarroll so that he can call the meeting to order and introduce the rest of the committee. And thank you, everyone, for joining us tonight.
Oh, well, thank you, Karen, and welcome, everyone. This is, as Karen said, the third and last meeting with applicants for the community CPA program. We've had this program in Springfield for 5 years. Over those first 5 years, it has raised nearly $10 million, which have gone into about 75 projects. This year, we're expecting to have a little more than $2.25 million. We will have a final amount once the fiscal year ends. The sad news, though, is that we have requests before us that are almost twice that amount. So our role is to make recommendations to the City Council. The timetable that we have is we will start after this meeting. Our next meeting, we will begin our own internal deliberations regarding the projects, and then we will start voting on recommendations, and that takes several meetings, and we have to submit our recommendations to the City Council, and once it goes to them, they're on their own time schedule, although usually they act within a month or so of getting the recommendations. So present for tonight's meeting is Juanita Martinez, who represents the Conservation Commission, Gloria DiFilippo, who represents the Planning Board, Steve Bosworth, a neighborhood representative, Clinton Harris, the Park Commission representative, Rhonda Sherrill, a neighborhood representative, Willie Thomas, the Housing Authority representative. I am the Springfield Preservation Trust representative, and in fact, since the trust has an item before us tonight, I will be recusing myself, not deliberating and not voting on this item, and Juanita will be taking over that part of the meeting. We may have a few other committee members showing up, but we're going to start the presentations, and keep in mind it is a 5-minute time presentation regardless of how many people are part of your contingent. It's a grand total of 5 minutes. Gloria is the official timer. She will give you a 2-minute warning, and then at 5 minutes she will tell you that it's time. Finish the sentence that you're in, and then there will be an opportunity for committee members to ask questions. Could be no questions, it could be 20 questions. Please limit your response to the question and not use it as a segue to talk about things that you didn't get to talk about in your 5 minutes. So our other neighborhood member, Yolanda Cancel, is logging in right now, and our historical commission member, Judy Kroll, is logging in right now. So we will go forward with this, and the first one is the Moore Museum of Fine Arts. So
Bob?
Rachel, you're going to be presenting.
Bob, before we start, may I say to the people who are going to speak, you have only 5 minutes. If at all possible, keep it to the project, because that's what we want to hear. I know you want to tell us all about your organization, and I do not mean to dismiss your organization, but what's important here is the project, so we fully understand why you want it, why you need it, etc. Thank you. That's all.
Thank you, Gloria. So, Rachel.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Bob. And I'm going to hit my own timer as well, so I'll try best not to go over. But even with just 5 minutes, I want to start by thanking everyone here, the committee members, Bob, Karen, and all of you who give so much of your time to a process that I know is very time intensive and takes a lot of thought. And the funding you've given to Springfield museums and to Springfield, to so many different projects, 75 different projects over the past 5 years. I just don't know where the city would be without this incredible support. It's deeply appreciated. Thank you. I'm first speaking to a work that we've proposed for the Moore Museum of Fine Arts. This would be the second phase of this work on the building. Currently, we are in the first. Our first phase includes work to the front doors and cleaning of the limestone facade on the Chestnut Street side, and a replacement, an in-kind replacement of the original steel-slash windows, also on the Chestnut Street side. So in this second phase, we are, the door will be done at that point, but we need to continue around the building to continue cleaning the urban pollution that has built up on the museum facade, and to continue the expensive process of replacing the original windows. I am going to share my screen just so we can look at photos. Bear with me a moment. I've got to come over here. So you can see this is the Chestnut Street side view, the side of the building that work is being done on in the first phase, but it's a good depiction of that, that urban buildup around the top, along the facade, the top of the building. You can see it on, this is the Yertle the Turtle side. And you can see what poor condition the windows are in. This museum houses 7,000 pieces of artwork, and you might remember from our presentation last year, and here I'll leave us on the historic photos, which are very aesthetically pleasing, and the goal of all of this is to get us back to that as closely as possible. You may recall last year that we did make the decision to, instead of doing window restoration, to do a replacement, and that is in large part because of the environmental protection that it can offer our collections. I see I've got 2 minutes remaining. So we are moving forward with that, but the good news there is that we have reason to believe that Hope's Window, the contractor we're working with on these windows, were actually the original creators of these windows. So we are in excellent hands with them. They have a real dedication to keeping the work as close as possible to the original, while still offering all the all the advancements that have come in the past 90 years since these were first put in. I think I'm going to stop it there and not use the full 5 minutes.
Okay, well, thank you, Rachel. So do any committee members have a question regarding this project? Can't see everyone at the same time, so I'm hoping not. I'm not seeing any hands up at this point. So I guess I will just, if I read it correctly, Rachel, this is actually a 3-phase project, and besides this year, there would be one more year that you would ask to finish it, and that would be finishing the windows, because this year, if it were recommended, it does the cleaning on all 3 sides. Is that correct?
This, sorry, right. So this, you're correct that it is a 3-year project. The full budget is over $1.2 million over those 3 years, which, as fundraising allows, could expand beyond. There's the original. Could expand beyond that time frame. In this next phase, right, phase 2, we would propose the full cleaning of the whole building and then one additional side of the windows. And then the third and final phase would just be the 2 remaining sides of the windows. And that's because the windows are the most expensive part of this project, and it will take us that amount of time to fundraise appropriately and see the project through.
Okay. So once again, any questions of committee members? Not seeing any hands up or anyone waving at me. We'll move on, which is the second presentation from the museums on Kilroy House exterior restoration, phase 3.
All right, thank you. And I'll start my timer again too. All right. So this will be the third and hopefully final phase of the restoration work being done to the 1905 Dr. Philip Kilroy house. It's actually the house I work in. And it is and you know this already, but it is a very rare example of the mission revival style in the New England area and in Springfield specifically. I personally love working in such a beautiful building, and I'm so glad to be seeing this work take place currently, because it's all in phase 2, and to hopefully continue until it's complete. So the current phase taking place is the removal of asbestos and the work on the stucco facade, and we expect that to wrap around about 3/4 of the building. So all of the Yertle the Turtle side, the Chestnut Street side, and about 80% of the Edward Street side. So in this second phase, we are requesting funds for the last quarter of that work. That would do the continue the abatement and the stucco repair. And also we are seeking to do a repair of the windows, including 3 stained glass windows, and then a scraping and repainting of the soffits on the underside of the roof. So I'm going to share my screen because I've got photos of all these areas. And go. Oh, gotta start from the beginning. So this full side you can see where the stucco repair work is needed. Here you can see like some of the brick exposure, but there's also just discoloration and cracking throughout. This final phase would address what the back side of the building, but is used currently as a main entrance. it would cover, you see this last portion of the stucco repair, also a lot of brick exposure here, and water damage there, cracking here. And here you can get a preview of some of the stained glass windows. And this is you see the soffits that need repainting, scraping and repainting. And here's just a closer look at the current state of the windows, which we would be working with Chris's Carpentry in Woodstock, Connecticut, a contact of our facilities director, Sean Mullets, who has a lot of experience doing this kind of repair work. It would take place over nearly the whole project period because you'd be going window by window. And then the stained glass windows would be done by Jean Scott, who has 30 years of experience in the New England area. And she would be doing the cleaning repair of these stained glass windows and this leaded window. So I will, let's see, I think I will leave it about there and open it up to questions.
Oh, all right. Well, thank you, Rachel. All right. Any questions of committee members? Once again, I can't see everyone.
I have a question, Juanita, here.
Okay, Juanita.
So the stained glass windows, are they going to be removed to be repaired, or they can be repaired on site? I didn't see that.
You know, I know for the regular windows, of which there are many, there's a 12 basement and 42 main house windows. There's only 3 of the stained glass. I know for the regular windows, those are being removed and repaired off-site and brought back and installed. I'm actually not sure about the stained glass, so I can ask our facilities director and get back to you on that. I imagine they will be, just so that they can be like, just part of this is about sealing the building as well. But I could be wrong about that, so I'll confirm and get back to you.
Any other questions from committee
you.
members? Steve Bosworth has a question.
Yeah, thanks, Bob. Rachel, this is phase 3. So is this the last phase of the project, or is this what you expect it to be concluded with this and complete?
We do, yes. That is our great hope that this will be the 3rd and final phase.
And when do you expect this to be completed at this stage? What's the anticipated date? I know you may have said that in the material, but I don't remember.
Yeah, I believe it would be November of 20, is that what we would put it? November of 2024 would be the project period associated with this funding period. Obviously, if there's any kind of delay, we would hope to ask for an extension and be able to complete the work that way, but our hope would be to stay on the funding period.
Right, because most of that work would be, I think, during the good weather season, right? You wouldn't want to do any of that stucco work in the winter, right?
Right. The plan would be from March to November.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Thank you.
And for our newer Community Preservation Committee members, we assisted with phase 1, which was repairs to the tile roof and a study of how best to fix the stucco. And then phase 2 was actually fixing the stucco on a little more than 3/4 of the building or half of the building. So, Rachel, I have a question. When there was a subcommittee up doing an inspection of the work that had taken place, there was a small window that I think on the Yertle the Turtle side that had at one time an air conditioner inserted in it. Am I correct that that window will be restored? Because right now it's sort of partly blocked up having had the air conditioner in it.
Okay, that's another question I'll bring to Sean and get back to you on just to be certain, but I'm pretty sure the total we have for the windows includes all
Mhm.
any opening. It actually also includes that door on the second floor, if you know what I'm talking about, the door above the door. So I'm pretty sure it would include any openings, but I can get back to you.
All right. So, any other questions from committee members? Not seeing any hands up. Thank you very much, Rachel. And we will move on to the next presentation, which is the Gemini townhouses. And Jasper McCoy is going to be talking, right, Jasper? That's you?
Yeah, I'm here. Can everybody hear me? Hello?
Yep,
Yeah,
we can hear you.
Okay, awesome. That scared me. So I'm just going to jump the presentation up. Can everybody see this? I'm hoping so.
Yes.
We can see it.
Okay, awesome. So my name is Jasper McCoy. I'm the project manager for Home City Development Incorporated. Our tagline is "We like to build better neighborhoods." The Gemini project is exciting. It's one of my first projects here at Home City. I have a long history of doing architecture in the Boston area, but this new construction 40 unit affordable homeownership project is slated for the south end of Springfield. The project is currently in the closing phase and shall be underway in the summer of this year. Gemini Townhomes will be marketed to first-time home buyers and uphold a 70% local preference in its lottery management. This is Home City Development's second year of 2 years applying for funding through the CPC after being awarded in 2022. Home City Development has been committed to producing affordable housing in Springfield and building better neighborhoods for over 50 plus years. The project highlights: we're appreciative of the local support for this project coming from local legislators like Representative Carlos Gonzalez, Bud Williams, and City Councilor Melvin Edwards, and the South End Citizen Council, who have given us letters of recommendation for this project. The city has also been a major supporter for this project, assisting in the environmental closeout and awarding both home and ARPA grant funds. The CPA has also awarded funds last year, and that's been very helpful. I just want to stress at this moment, the price of building homes for our community is at an all-time high. Development costs are over $500,000 per unit for this project, and it would not be possible without public subsidy. Doing affordable housing isn't cheap, and then offering people an opportunity to have home ownership and generational wealth, it costs a lot. And so I'm very thankful for everybody who's been appreciative and shown support for this project. And we're just looking to make this happen in the next year. So moving on, all homes developed in this project will be all electric and energy efficient beyond the current standards of the Massachusetts State Code, incorporating green energy design standards such as heat pumps for water heating, heat and energy recovery ventilators, and super insulated buildings. The goal is to have new homeowners in these units, all affordable. People who are underneath 100% AMI have no issues with any electric bill, with any gas bills, or anything overburden them on their costs for running their home. The census data shows 4 owner-occupied homes in this area of the South End. With this 40-unit homeownership project, we'll increase that by 1,000%. This will help stabilize the economic fabric of this neighborhood. And research shows that more occupant homeowners increase the influx of local spending and raise property values.
2 minutes, Jasper.
Thank you. The increase of homes in the South End will help property value increase, and it'll fight the blight that has been happening in this area, especially since the Gemini factory fire happened in 2008, leaving that plot of land vacant. This project will help bring new development in the area for private developers, catalyzing more development and better stability for our community in this area. And so I'm just going to quickly go through 2 slides since I have 2 minutes left, I want to show the site plan so people can see what we're hoping to build and how nicely it's going to come. And then the last one is just a resource map. So if you're looking here, you can see where the Gemini Townhomes project will be, and then all the resources people will have within a walking distance to the project. So there's a bunch of banks. There will be a grocery store that'll be happening in the Big Y area downtown. And this is within a mile of all the resources of the downtown area. And so anybody who'll be buying these homes in a lottery system, which is any of these people that you'll see up on the screen that make this amount of money. So it's a wide range of people. They'll have access to all these resources from the Gemini project. And I'll end there and accept any questions anyone has.
I have a question, Juanita here.
Hi.
Hi. Thank you for your presentation. Somebody buys the house, right? The first time homeowners, they buy the house.
Uh-huh.
And when they sell the house, are there any restrictions on how much they can sell it for?
Yeah, so year over year, you're only allowed a 5% increase in your property value. So if you were to buy the home for $100,000, let's say, the second year that you own it, you would have had a 10% increase of your property value. So each year you're able to do 5%. So on the first year, it'd be worth $105,000. And then the second year, it would be 5% more than $105,000. And so it compounds, allowing people to give equity. And there's a restriction period on the Gemini townhomes of 15 years flat, and that is given to us by our major funding source, Mass Housing. Does that answer your question?
Yes, it doesn't. It doesn't. I mean, you buy a house to is an investment. And if you can't, so it doesn't go towards what it's complicated because it won't go to the market value.
Yeah, so I can try and re-explain. So all the homes are being sold at an affordable rate. So I think the highest price on our homes at this current moment is $210,000 or $215,000. And so for anyone to sell a home in the first 15 years of owning it, that restriction period, they have to sell it to somebody else within the same AMI bracket, so area median income. And that has to be certified through a third-party certification called CHAPA out in Boston. And they're just going to make sure that no one is, overly reaping a benefit by, tricking the system and then faking their AMI. And then after that, within those years, you're able to get your equity out at a 5% increase year over year. Does that more clearly explain it?
It does. It's complicated, but it does. I
Yeah.
mean, complicated for the owner of the house, but thank you.
Question, Jasper.
Yes.
Steve Bosworth, hi. So what stage are you at now, and what are you using? Would you be using the funding for over the next 12-month period or whenever it comes in?
I'm excited that you asked that. So our first round of funding is toward the first phase. And so that's about 14 units. And that was the 2022 allocation that we got from the CPA. This year and our last year asking for any funding from your committee is for the second phase. So that's an additional 14 units. And so what we're hoping to do is help offset the cost of development and then provide phase over phase. And these two phases, an opportunity for people to buy these homes and then us to close the gap on funding.
Perfect.
Steve, did I answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Are there any other questions?
Sorry, I was muted, Jasper. I guess I have two questions. One is phase two the houses that are north of Morris Street, or are they somewhere part of the larger Central Street project?
I apologize. I do not have the direct answer for you. I don't have the phasing plan in front of me, but it was produced by our contractor, and so I can get that information to you. I know that the first phase is of the larger Central Street portion, and I know that the last portion involves the ones above Morris Street, but I couldn't tell you for sure whether or not it's split in the second phase.
I see. And the other question I have is on the timeline on page 5 of your application. It says the commence phase 2 construction, and it says September 2023. Is that indeed 2023, or is that supposed to be? Yes, it must be 2023 because it's supposed to be completed in 2024.
Yeah, and so I can talk to this a little bit. Our phasing, it starts and they kind of, what do they call it? Russian doll each other. And so one phase will start, and then 2 or 3 months after, they'll start on another portion of the phase. So as we construct and we do the foundations, they'll move on to the next phase so the contractor can move along and their workers can basically do things in sequence of each other. And so although we'll be starting the second phase in September, as our timeline says, we won't be finishing and then producing the units to be sold to homeowners until 2024.
I see. So, and I guess my last question is your timeline for closing on all project financing and commencement of site work is happening before our recommendations are completed. So I guess if you're closing on all your financing in June of 2023, how does our money, if we were to recommend it to you, which doesn't get approved by City Council until after, several months after that, how does that work then? It sounds like you've got your financing already wrapped up, and you don't necessarily need us.
So within the financials that we sent over, it does show a $250,000 gap in our financing. And what we were doing last year when we had submit our application to the CPA, allotted it to the first phase so that when we do have that phase finished, that we can at least have a requirement or a milestone to apply that to. And we're doing the same thing with the second phase. So although we might not have an answer before we start, what we're hoping to do is close the gap and then be able to provide affordable home ownership in the same manner. So it is a little bit of a cat and mouse game, but we're just hoping with the local support that we can finish this project. Otherwise, we'll have to figure out other funding sources in the months to come, and creatively we can do that. But what we're really trying to do is bring the community together to give these people a chance at affordable home ownership and a generational wealth.
Any
have a
other?
question.
Juanita, you have a question?
Yeah. What about like subletting? If a person has to move out of the area for a while for a job or something, subletting, renting.
I appreciate your question because I know I didn't mention anything about the condo association that'll be managing this. So these homeownership units are all condos. And so there's going to be association run and managed by a local condominium association manager, and there will be rules that they can and cannot do certain things. And so there won't be any renting of the units. The people will have to own or occupy it for the position of them owning the home. And then there's no such thing as subletting unless it's in the bylaws. And as of right now, the bylaws don't have any of those caveats in them.
Thank you.
No problem.
Any other questions? All right. So we will then move on to the next presentation, which is the Old Hill infill development in Jasper. That's you again.
Oh wow, that's crazy. Great being back in front of you guys again.
Yeah.
Again, my name is Jasper McCoy from Home City Development. I'm going to share my screen while I have a chance to. So, again, we are affordable housing nonprofit development agency building better neighborhoods. The Old Hill project is one very close to my heart as I grew up in this area. This project is a 10-unit single family homeownership development project in the Old Hill neighborhood of Springfield, Mass. Home City Development has partnered with the City of Springfield and applied for funding from Mass Housing's Neighborhood Stabilization Program to help combat blight and vacancies in our built neighborhood context. In the Old Hill neighborhood, there are a ton of vacant properties and then also properties that are dilapidated over a course of 20 to 30 years. And what we're hoping to do is redevelop 10 vacant lots and provide affordable home ownership opportunities while involving the community in this process. What Home City Development and the city have done is committed to a public process within this development, and we begin to outreach to local contractors and stakeholders to ensure the neighborhood is being represented. So I just want to take a moment and go over some of the slides that I have here, then get back to some of the information I have written. What we did over the course of August, September of 2022 is we spent some time collecting data to understand what the Old Hill neighborhood needed as far as residential improvement. Our data collection was on 804 residential properties in Old Hill, which you can kind of see in this darker context of the map here. We spoke to residents at 517 properties, about 64% of all the homes in this area. And what we were looking to do is get an analysis of whether or not the owner occupied the home, get an analysis of what the property's value was as far as how well it was maintained or whether or not its status of being a great property or needing work was done, and then see how many units were available or vacant. And so this took place over 2 months, and here's some of the findings. What we did with this data is we presented to a couple of stakeholders at community meetings that we attended in order to not only share this data, but then get a sense of how other people are managing developments in the same area. But we had a local geographical information system modeler put all this information together. And so what you're looking at is some of this information from that analysis. Of this, we found a lot of people do live in the property, but on the vacant blighted properties, there was a lot of out of town people who own these, and then we couldn't really respond to them or have access to talk to them in that time period.
2 minutes, Jasper.
Thank you. This is very helpful as we understand the people who don't own those plots and then how we could obtain them in order to do more residential development in this area. And back to a few of my comments that are already written. Our current outreach and partnerships include Hope CDC, the Old Hill Neighborhood Council, the City of Springfield-led Neighborhood Hub Coalition, and a handful of minority and women-owned contractor entities, as well as local real estate brokerage firms and lawyers. And I'm ready to take any questions on this project.
I have a question, Bob, Jasper.
Yeah.
Now, I saw that you have a schematic of a home that a typical home that you would build in as an infill project. Is that I'm trying to grasp this here. Are you looking to infill vacant lots with new construction, or are you trying to work on dilapidated existing properties?
So to clarify, what we did is we took a status or an analysis of the entire neighborhood just to see what was there. So when we were offered the opportunity through an RFP from the city, what was important to understand is how we could have the best impact. And so we looked at how many properties were dilapidated across the status of how many properties they own that were vacant. And this project is all infill new construction.
Okay,
and so we
all right.
Lots that'll be 10 single family homes.
And it's based upon that you sent a little plan of a typical house, right? So it would look typically like that.
Yeah.
Okay. Two-story house.
Yeah, and so that was just a preliminary zoning analysis of what could fit on each of those properties. We were trying to make it streamlined, so not only is it easier to build, but it's replicable for all of the Old Hill area, but then also beyond in other neighborhood contexts.
And let me just a follow-up question on that. I know, I guess I saw a list of addresses, which I assume are the lots you're looking at. Are you concerned about remediation efforts on any of those lots, considering that you really don't know what was on there, if a house burned down, what was done to it, and what's in the ground?
Well, thankfully, because we're working with the city, they've already clarified a lot of that information on how they did remediate some of those lots. And as of right now, we don't have any concerns of whether or not there's going to take a lot of soil remediation during the process of construction.
That's really positive. It's good because I would think that would be a real obstacle in some cases.
Yeah, there are other obstacles, but that's not one.
Okay, right. All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve.
Any other questions? Rhonda, you have a question?
Yes. Are all the houses gonna be cookie cutter or each one gonna be different?
So as of right now, we have the same organization on site, and then we have some variations for each unit. But without, so the plans that you're looking at in the designs were done in-house by me. They weren't done by an architect. So what we're doing is we're hiring an architect to ensure that the designs are not cookie cutter, and then people have an opportunity for their homes to fit into the aesthetic context of the rest of the neighborhood. And so most of the homes are all throughout the Union Street area, and I think there's one on Orleans Avenue, but we kind of want it to fit in, and we'll need outside consultants to finish that process.
Thank you.
Jasper, what is the size of?
Sorry, I could not hear.
Yeah, so let me ask my question, then we'll go to Clinton. Jasper, what is the size of these houses? How much square footage in the house?
So they're all slated to be 1,400 square feet, 3-bedroom, 2-bath units as of right now.
Okay. Clinton, you had a question?
Yeah, I just wonder what some of those obstacles are that are projected.
One of the largest is funding. It's always funding, unfortunately, for affordable housing. So in the last project I presented, we were looking at over $500,000 of construction pricing. And for this, we don't have full plans to get pricing from, but what we're looking to do is creatively find manners to include more local contractors into this, but then also build it cheaper so it can be done more and more. And so those are a lot of balls in the air that we're looking to juggle. And then we have to find the right groove to make it happen. And I think that's the biggest obstacle that we're looking at. But I'm running at it full speed, and we're trying to get this done.
And so the timeline would be questionable as well.
No, as of right now, as long as the lots are cleared from the city and we go through our purchasing, we have $2 million committed from the Mass Housing Neighborhood Stabilization. Also, the city has committed some funds. And so what we're doing is looking to design it as best we can, and then slim down and then make it more effective so that we can not only fit this project, but then do other projects just like this. So our projection timeline for construction are pretty on point, but the reality of it is we won't know until we get 2 months in and we have a full design from a registered architect.
I have a question. I have a question, Juanita, here. I'm just actually piggybacking on something Rhonda said, which I noticed around Springfield, there are a lot of vacant lots that houses go up. They're just boxes. They just put macadam around the whole house. There's no green space, nothing of any character, metal door and windows. And although it builds a house, there's no character to it at all, and it really doesn't do much to the neighborhood. And I don't know what kind of houses that, because I mean I haven't seen, there isn't a photo of one.
Yeah. So we are pretty early in the process, but what we're focusing on in this project is just like the Gemini, doing energy efficient homes. And so a part of the caveat of doing energy efficient homes is to have more of a box look, and that's to have more streamlined insulation and then one facade. And so what we're doing and we're trying to look at is having a little bit of undulation on the facade and the front and the back, and then some placement of windows so that things don't look all the same, and then also do some color variations. But as of right now, with our energy efficient goals and to ensure that people who are moving into these affordable homes can afford to live there, we kind of got to do what we kind of do, and then we'll move forward to make it look better after we get through the design phase. I apologize. I know that's not a real answer, but I'm trying.
Thank you.
So once again, Jasper, in terms of your timeline in your application, you're closing on all project financing next month in June and commencing the site work in August. So this once again is running ahead of our deliberation timeline.
Yes. And so at the point of application, we had not received yet an extension from Mass Housing's Neighborhood Stabilization Program. We have put one in and we're waiting to hear back on our extension. Our project timeline is pushed back by 3 or 4 months. And so what you have in front of you is not the most up-to-date version of what we're looking at. We're looking to close sometime in the fall and start construction right before winter, at least on the foundations. And then if we're able to send more information for this review, I can get you a new updated schedule that fits a lot more to what would be the timeline of a decision from the CPA.
Jasper, these houses all have basements?
We're looking at half basements in these homes.
Could you expound on that? What does that mean?
And so if you're looking at the entire floor plate of the design from the first floor,
Right.
we're just going to do half of that for a basement. And the reality of it is what we've heard from our real estate professionals and then also through marketing studies is people in this area typically have basements that are full but don't have garages. And so we're looking at a happy medium of a full one-car garage and then a half basement.
Very good.
Jasper, do you have a sense of how much to the cost of the house the super energy efficiency adds?
Not at this point. And so the problem with this is I could tell you if you had asked that for the Gemini project, but simply put, as these are single family homes and the construction method is a little different, I can't tell you offhand without having construction pricing. And I think we're about 3 to 4 months away from that.
Okay. I raised the question because I went online today to look for new houses on the market in Springfield. And up on Rentham Street, up off of Boston Road, there's a 1,800 square foot house that looks very similar to the rendering that you provided us. And it has 2.5 baths. And it has photographs of the inside that are very nice, and it's on the market for $360,000. So I can't speak to how energy efficient it is, but clearly that developer is not selling the house at a loss. That includes his construction cost, his land cost, and his profit. And so I kind of like wondering, how come the private sector is selling a house for $360,000 that's bigger, and your houses are costing over $500,000 each? Well,
specifically, I'd like to point out and give a little bit more context to the $500,000 figure from the Gemini project. So in the Gemini project, what we ran into was unsuitable soils. And so what we have there is close to $2 million of soil remediation, and it's not environmental. What happened is, as the city remediated the fire and they removed all the environmental stuff, what happened between that and whoever handled that work, they did not put back suitable soils to build anything on top of. And so what we have to manage in the Gemini project is a $2 million overrun in order for us to shore up the ground and then put buildings on them. On these smaller sites, we're hoping that we're only going to get around and I'm quoting here, I think we're around a $40,000 soil remediation per site. And so we're going to be able to build them a lot cheaper, but I just can't say for sure until we've come to the full design and pricing exercise that we're going to get from our contractor and architect. So your question is a valid question, and I don't want to compare apples to oranges right now, but what we're hoping is that this project is going to be a lot cheaper than Gemini project was.
Sure, but right now the budget for this project on Old Hill is $5,400,000.
Yes.
So you're right. You may very well come in under budget, but it still means if you don't, it means each one of these single-family houses is more than $500,000. Okay. All right. Any other questions from committee members? All right. Not seeing any hands up. We move to the next presentation, which is the Kavanaugh project, and Donald Mitchell will be taking over. So, Donald, it's all yours.
Donald, you're muted.
Yep, there it is. Thank you, everyone. Good evening. Thanks for considering our project for funding consideration. And Karen, thanks for your help in advance for sharing the screen. And I'll just kind of walk through the interior floor plan as well as the exterior elevations and just give you a brief description of the project. So whenever you're ready. Karen?
I wasn't clear that you were asking for the sharing.
Okay.
What would you specifically like me to? Or if you have it, you can just go ahead.
Yeah, no worries. What I can do is I'll just talk about it in general, and then, everybody has seen it because they have a copy of it, but I can just talk about it in general. So the Kavanaugh project is obviously a former furniture warehouse that we are redeveloping into a mixed-use building in Springfield. That mixed development project will consist of 35 residential units. I believe three of them are 2-bedroom, and the remaining 32 are 1-bedroom units. Out of those units, 20 of those will be for supportive housing. And so and that's really the area that we're requesting the funding for. The building will also house about 10,000 square feet of retail commercial space. So that'll be on floors 1 and 2, where we'll have about 10,000 square feet of retail commercial space. We'll have 15 units comprised of the lower level and the first floor. And on the second floor, we'll have an additional 20 units that would make up the total of 35 residential units for the project. We're still in the process of finalizing our exterior improvements, and we'll be going before the Historic Commission late this month or early next month, but we did get the authorization from them to proceed with demolition. So we're going to demolish 2/3 of the building, which was the former warehouse, which really had no historic value. And it was the foundations were in very poor condition, and we were just unable to build on them. However, we are going to keep and preserve the front of the building to the best of our ability to make sure that we can capture all the historic significance of that building and preserve any of the building integrity. So that's what we intend to do for our project. As I said, the second floor will house it'll house 20 units. And so what we're really looking to do is we've applied for funding from your organization to help cover our project expenses for floor 2. And again, there'll be 20 units, and our request was for $210,000, which is about a little under 3% of the total project cost. And the total project cost is $8.5 million. We have other funding commitments from the city, from their ARPA funding. Build Back Springfield, and then their housing ARPA money. We also
2
received
minutes.
okay, thanks. We also received some funding from MASH ARP, which is a public, it's a nonprofit housing organization in the eastern part of the state. And we currently have, or we will have, an application in to mass development for some funding as well that will really finalize all of our funding requirements. And also we have about $3 million of private funding that we have included in this project as well. So at this point, I'll just pause and I'm open to answer any questions.
This is Steve. Hey, Donald, hi.
Hi.
Explained a little bit about the supportive housing role and what functionality that has and the kind of support that is provided by the overseeing organization.
Yeah, so we are in partnership with MHA, Mental Health Association, and so they had applied for some funding, which they didn't get. Had they got it, they were just going to take the 20 units on the top floor, and they were going to work directly with their client population to house them and provide wraparound services. Given that they did not get it, it was a joint application with the Housing Office of Springfield. However, they said they are still willing and able to provide the wraparound services for anyone that will occupy those 20 units for supportive housing services. So they're going to really be our partner in that. We don't know yet. We're still working on the nuances with Jerry and some other folks around where that client base will come from that will occupy those 20 units.
It'll be on-site support.
Correct. Yes.
I see that. I did a quick calculation. If you have 35 units for, you said 8.25 million, that's your total?
$8.5 million, yes.
That's just a bargain, $235,000 a unit. So that's pretty good deal. I know they're small units, but yeah, compared to some of the other things.
Yeah, we do the best we can.
Okay,
thank you.
Any other questions? Juanita, you have a question?
Yeah, I was a little confused. The front of the building, when you say the front of the building will be preserved, is that just the front wall or the actual building?
No, good question. And it's the actual, so if you look at the building from the south side coming up State Street, there are 3 buildings, the front or the front building from the State Street entrance. So that's one building. Then there's another building connected to that, which is a cinder block building, which connects the first building to the third building, which is a warehouse. So we're going to keep the entire first building, which was the actual first building, built for the Kavanaugh Furniture Store. So the entire building we're going to keep and preserve and make all the restoration to try to bring it back as close to what it used to look like many years ago. But obviously there'll be some change to the front facade as we're going to have residential units on the second floor.
Yeah, because there's no windows. Yeah.
Correct.
That's
correct.
Right.
There are windows there now. They've just been closed. They've been closed up, and they're like they're they're block windows, the block glass. So all that has to come out, and we have to put new residential windows in the front part of the facade on the second floor.
Oh, so there were windows there originally.
Yes.
Okay. Oh yeah, you could almost see where they were.
Right.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Rhonda, you have a question?
Yes, I just wanted to recap. So it's 20 units for supportive housing. And how many units are the other units?
Yeah, the other is 15 other units, and those will just be affordable housing units.
And those are going to be 2 bedrooms or 1?
No, that'll be a mixture. So on the first floor on the lower level, I believe there will be 2 1-bedroom. I believe there's 2 2-bedroom units, and the remaining 13 would be 1-bedroom units. And on the second floor, there's 1 2-bedroom unit and 19 one 2-bedroom unit and 19 1-bedroom units.
Okay, I was trying. Yeah, I want to understand that a little better.
And just to be clear, those are rental units.
Correct.
Okay.
So the supportive housing, will they be able to rent at a cheaper rate than the other 15?
Yes, the scale will be a little different for the supportive housing units. So those will be a little less expensive. But also there's going to just come with some additional services that the 15 units on the first and lower level wouldn't receive.
Okay.
All right.
Donald, did you say
Yes.
that the Kavanaugh building was historical?
Well, it was not, but it is now. So it was just, it was historical. It was historical by nature. So that the building was built in, I believe, 1904. And recently the lower State Street corridor decided to convert a certain area, a pocket to the within the local historic district. So that just happened January of this year. And so as a result of that happening in January, that kind of threw our project, it put it in a slight tailspin because we had been making plans for about the last year to 14 months based on it not being in the historic district and not having to do some of the things that the local historic district is requiring. And not that, and our intent was always to try to preserve the building as best we can, but to, I think, one of the other committee's points earlier, like we were just trying to do this within a budget. And so the only real cost increase we incurred now is really our window cost. So our windows we probably had a increase of about 30% from the windows we were initially proposing to the windows that we have to now put in into our project. And so, that's okay, but it would have been great if we had known this maybe a year ago, because then we could have just been more strategic and planned accordingly.
So then do you see this project in phases or is this coming to a closure with us?
No, that's a very good question. So I would not say, I guess it's a yes and no, and let me try to clarify that. So when we start this project, from when we start construction, it's going to take anywhere from 12 to 14 months. And construction is abatement, demolition, ground improvement, and then once we physically build the new structure up. And because of the funding cycle for the proposed funders, which is your organization and mass development, we're strategically doing all of the work in the first floor and the lower level first. Obviously, we have our MEP costs that, we got to put a new roof on the building. We can't not do those things. So there's just some costs we're going to incur right away to just stabilize the building and enclose it. But all of our costs will mainly be incurred in the lower level of the building. And the presumption is if we get funding from your organization in mass development, those funds will be allocated directly toward finishing up the buttoning up the second floor and getting all those units online, within a year to 14 months. So it is we are kind of doing it in phases, but I imagine if we start in September, we'll still be working on the lower level, probably early into March of next year. But our hope was that we would have been a little further along than we are now, and we could be wrapping up the first floor on the lower level by the end of this year, early next year, but it looks like we're going into the spring of next year.
We can appreciate your support services for the mental health clientele. Thanks for your
We
work.
appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions from committee members? Not seeing any hands or hearing any voices. Thank you, Donald, and we will move on. I'm going to be turning over the meeting now to Juanita. As I had said at the beginning of the meeting, I am on the board of the Springfield Preservation Trust, which is the next proposer. So I will be recusing myself anytime this particular project comes up. So Juanita, take it away.
Okay, thanks. So the next application is 79 Stockbridge Street for rehabilitation, and I think the Springfield Preservation, I see you there. So
yes, I'm
you're
Kira.
on.
So I'm putting up my presentation right now. All right, and I'd like to thank the Springfield Community Preservation Committee for hearing us this evening from Springfield Preservation Trust on the 7 to 9 Stockbridge Street proposal. As you see right here, this is a circa 1938-1939 works progress administration photo of the building. Seven to 9 Stockbridge Street is known as the Gunther and Handel Block. It is the third oldest building in downtown Springfield after Old First Church and the Byers Block. Built in 1845, this building is one of a series constructed in the 1840s on Stockbridge Street. In 1893, it was sold to Peter Vogel, who managed it for another 10 years. It had been the longtime Gunther's and Handel's deli before being renovated in 1977 by Peter Zorzi of Studio One Architects. Peter was an active Springfield Preservation Trust member and hosted our board meetings here. Also, it has a preservation restriction on the building, which came into place in May 30th of 1979 under Peter Zorzi's ownership of the building. It is also on the State Register of Historic Places for this building. So this is the area for 7 to 9 Stockbridge Street. It's located in downtown Springfield in the Metro Center neighborhood. It is across from MGM Springfield. The building plan is for the first floor to be the Springfield Preservation Trust office. We are currently in an assisted living facility, and it would be nice to have our own office, especially in a historic building. The second floor would either be an apartment or office. Third floor would be an apartment. We put together a balance sheet that enables the building to sustain itself, inclusive of utilities, grounds, maintenance, property maintenance, and development of a capital expenditure savings account through rental income. The expected rental income yearly would be $33,600, and expenses would be $31,300. This is some current views of the building right now for the exterior. The building was a bank foreclosed property, and it is in urgent need of rehabilitation with an active water damage being incurred each day it sits vacant because of the roof. SPT has closed on this building. Our CPA grant funding request would enable roof, window, and door replacement, as well as facade, masonry stabilization, and exterior painting. We are deeply familiar with Secretary of the Interior standards for treatment of historic properties and will follow all guidelines stringently. All
2 minutes.
Thank you. All of our contractors are experienced with historic preservation, and all exterior proposals will be submitted through the Springfield Historical Commission for review and approval. It is within our organization's mission to demonstrate excellence in historic preservation, and we are committed to using this building as an example of historic preservation at its finest. What you see in these images currently is to showcase some unexpected structural issues, and it is not included in our CPA grant. This is the basement of the property, and we are currently working with a structural engineer in order to resolve these issues. But this is to show you some inside interiors of the building because we do not have a sketch of what the building is going to look like. So we also have our budget right here. The total for the project is $511,520. For acquisition of the property, it was $181,813. We have roof and external insulation replacement, exterior masonry and facade stabilization, exterior painting, window and exterior door replacement, and inflation allowance, making our total 29.5% of the project costs for $150,920. Then we have Please Choose Our Project. Save a historic building. Through rehabilitation of the historic resource, we would help preserve and enhance the essential historic character of downtown Springfield while protecting historic resources that is currently deteriorated and threatened. We'll also provide 2 apartments for downtown housing, have a community space to educate tourists, This will be the SPT office, as well as we have support from Springfield Historical Commission, Armored Quadrangle Civic Association, Springfield Improvement Business District, and South End Citizen Council. And then
Time's up.
Thank you.
Thank you for the presentation. Okay, yeah, if you can give us back our screen. And do any committee members have any questions? Anybody? No? And now I had a question, but it was answered already. Okay, well, moving on then. If there are no questions.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay. Thank you, Juanita. So the next presentation is the gun block. And I saw Mr. Napolitano on here earlier, but
I'm here.
oh, there he is. All right.
I'm here. Yes.
So take it away. Okay.
Hi, everyone. I'm Tom Napolitano. Thanks for having me. I'm the new owner of the gun block. We just purchased it from Develop Springfield, and they did a bunch of the work for us for the stabilization. And as far as all the tax credits go, they got most of it done with the state and federal, but because we changed their design, I have to like resubmit it, but that's not going to really hold me up. We plan on starting probably in September. I'm just waiting for the finalization of the structural plans because like they finished the stabilization, but there's still like some framing issues going on in the basement that we have to address. And I will show you the new plans. Oh, wait, oops. Let me share my screen here. All right. Oh, let me scroll up here. So this would be the first floor that we are making two commercial units. One will be a coffee shop on the left side, and then there'll be a laundromat for the tenants. And then since I own the Hubbard block attached to it, that would help them have laundry as well, since there's not really anything directly in the area for the tenants there. And then on the second floor, we changed the plans. There's going to be 4 one-bedroom apartments. The stairway is going to stay the same. We're able to just change the layout, make it a little bit smaller apartments, but there's enough square footage for zoning for one-bedroom apartments. And then on the third floor, there will be only 3 apartments. It'll be a larger 2-bedroom, a 1-bedroom, and another 1-bedroom. So a total of 7 apartments. And we're requesting the funding to help bridge the gap until I can get the loan. But they won't really help me with the structural and like all the masonry work on the exterior. Because like when Develop Springfield did it, they only helped stabilize it. So all the masonry, there's a lot of like masonry work that has to get redone. And then there's been water damage leaking in the basement, and that caused structural damage like in the foundation. And that's what the money will be used for. And then phase 2, we'll be getting into the mechanicals, and just like the other guy said, we'll be all using all green energy stuff, mini splits, EV chargers, and we'll be just using other grants that are available for that as well. I think that's it. Just open for more questions. I'm sure you guys will have a lot of questions.
I do have a question.
Yeah.
So the first floor, you say it's going to be a coffee shop.
Yeah, coffee shop on the left side. Yeah, we're converting it into 2 commercial units because before it was just a restaurant. And there's just I can scroll back to it if you can see. Hold on.
And so you'd enter that on State Street.
Yeah, both will be at the same. Yeah, it's going to be. We're going to keep we have to go through. Since we're going through the historical tax credit, it's going to look pretty much identical to what it looked like before. We're just adding a doorway. That's
and the laundromat. That's internal. It's not for people coming in off the street. It's just
it's more internal. And since I own the Hubbard block as well, they'll have access for it as well. And that
right.
would be it.
There won't be a doorway on the outside for that.
No, there'll still be a doorway as well, as long
so
as
it could be used by the community as well.
It could be, but I'm not sure. There's not going to be enough. If there's only going to be I think there's enough room for like for 6 washers and 6 dryers. So I couldn't allow everyone to go in there unless I partnered with like one of the local laundry shops, which I've reached out to, where that would be like a drop spot for somebody. And like they would drop it there and then they would pick it up. Cause I can only accommodate so many people. It's only so many square foot. So I don't want like all the tenants in the area going there. It's just, there's not enough square footage, unfortunately. Like it would just bog down, and we already looked into it. So I'm trying to make my plot like a landing zone for like, oh, we'll leave it here and then we can transport it to a local washer. That would be the goal, since I own most of the apartments on that, you know, from basically Kavanaugh to that gun block. Most of that's mine. And some of them, and like basically what is it on 447, we converted that, was what, 4 2-bedroom apartments. We got rid of one of the bedrooms and made a laundromat in there for the tenants. So build the 447 State Street, they have laundry inside. And then we're trying to do that similar here, but we had to put it downstairs at the commercial space because there wasn't enough square footage upstairs.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
So, I have a question on the budget. You have under structural, you have $10,000 for sidewalk repairs. Are these for the public sidewalk, or do you have sidewalks on your private property?
So like where Develop Springfield did that like front, like basically when the truck drove through it and they had to do all the structural, it's all completely cut up under there. Like if you were to go inside the building, there's like nothing there, and that technically leads into the sidewalk. Like we're gonna make it look like the original gun block, where the front entryways aren't like sticking out in the street. Like that's how they are now, or were, like just like the building next door. They're sticking out forward. They're supposed to be flush with the building. We're gonna make it like it was before. So like if I were to remove all that wood that's sticking out, there's like an enclosed area, there's nothing there. So there's like, I have to do a lot of masonry repairs and pouring concrete for the sidewalk. There's nothing there.
I see. Also, under trade items, you have plumbing and electric, but then under structural, you have utilities. So what is utilities if not plumbing and electric?
So utilities, what I would be referring to would be like, because there's not enough power there. So I haven't done any big enough project in Springfield. I've done it in Manchester, Connecticut, a lot of big projects in Connecticut. Sometimes I'm responsible to tap into the street line. Like if I need water, I'm not sure what Springfield rules are if I have to tap into that. Like when I need like I'm gonna have to put a sprinkler system in, I'm responsible to tap into that water line in some areas. In some areas they pay for it. I'm not sure, but usually there's a budget. I need some sort of budget for that, because there's nothing there. There's one electrical meter. I'm going to need 10. I need an owner meter and 7 units, 9 units. So sometimes sometimes I'm responsible for those costs. I'm not, sometimes the cities work with you. Sometimes, they might tell me I'm responsible for that.
All right. Any other questions from committee members?
Well, I have
Juanita?
a question, but it would be very helpful if you had a letter from the neighborhood council.
Okay.
And I don't see one here.
Okay. Yeah, we can get from the neighborhood council.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I can request for one of those.
Okay.
And that's the Maple High 6 Corners Neighborhood Council.
Okay. Yeah, I'll request a letter from them as well.
And Tom, your total budget is what you require, is what you're requesting for the grant, or is your budget higher than that?
Oh, my budget is very high. My budget's a lot of money. I don't have it in front of me. I want to say it's like 2.5. I want to say.
Yeah, I have it. It's 2,543,000.
Yeah, that's a lot of money, because there's nothing there, and I'm using the money for the structural needs for the roof. The masonry's a huge thing, because when Develop did it, they only stabilized it. So like there's huge sections because it's a double brick wall. So there's some walls you go to, there's only a single brick in some sections. Like if you wanted to, you could like kick some of those walls in.
So then is it your intention to reapply next year for
That would be the intention, because I'm sure I'm going to go over budget, since I just did a very similar project in Connecticut. I'm probably 30 days out from doing it. We converted a building pretty much identical size, and we made 8 apartments and a restaurant, Manchester Main Street. And we got a city grant for that as well, to 225,000, I think they gave us, and that took 2 years. And that's pretty much a very similar project. I imagine it would take just as long. So I would imagine next year I would probably be applying for something, but there is a lot of money from like the Inflation Reduction Act for all the green energy stuff, which is what we plan to use, like doing mini splits of EV chargers and higher insulation.
Have you pursued other grants as well?
Not yet. This is like, well, we're gonna do this, the storefront grants. But that's not even that much money. We're gonna do the storefront grants. And then I think there's nothing else available right now. It's when the last I checked, there wasn't really much available. I missed, the ARPA funding was gone the last I checked.
Very good. Thank you.
Yeah. I
This
appreciate it.
Juanita here, then I guess I'm confused on your part. How are you gonna pay for this?
Oh, I have a bank that I'm going to use, and then some of my money. I mean, I have to fix it, the building. I own like all the buildings next to it. I'm tired of looking at it, which I'm sure the entire city's tired of looking at it. So I already fixed one before. I just finished it. You guys can look it up. It's 623 Main Street in Manchester. And we fixed that building. And that was pretty much the same thing. Once we opened it up, we had to redo the entire structure inside. So did it before, we'll do it again. And they're fun. But yeah, I have funding available for it. It's just like the main part is like the banks don't like to help fund with the structural issues there. That's the main issue. And like developers people did a great job getting it to where it is. And then they just doing the final touches on it. That's it.
Love your optimism.
Sorry. I did it before. I'll do it again. Yeah, I know. Listen, you guys have, I know that there's been changed hands a lot of times, but it'll get done. If I took it over,
Yeah.
we'll finish it. I just finished one. It'll take 2 years, maybe a little bit longer, but we'll finish it.
Thank you.
I have a question. If you're going after the historic tax credits, who is the preservation consultant that you're working with?
Oh, that's yeah. So yeah, we're gonna use Doug Kellier from Epsilon. He's helping us with it.
Oh,
We'll be able to use some of that money too as well. Like that money will help fund, there's like I think 950,000 in tax credits, but you're allowed to tap into that as the project goes. So that's like in my funding as well. Like they don't hold it until you're done. So like I can keep working and I can use that to reimburse myself for the debt, which is what I plan. That's really how I plan on using the being able to fund it. It's to the tax credit.
But the answer is you're using Epsilon as your consultant. Okay.
Yeah.
They're a very reputable firm. Okay.
Yeah.
And any other questions of committee members? All right. Not seeing any. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Moving on to the next presentation, which is Trinity United Methodist Church.
Good evening. My name is Alan Harwood and Vera Baker, and I will discuss repair and restoration of the secular stained glass at Trinity Church. Trinity Church is the large stone church, 361 Sumner Avenue next to Forest Park. The church origin goes back to 1845, not this building. The current community building was built, the stones were laid in 1922. That's Forest Park Junior High across from that. So it's over 100 years old right now, that portion of the church. The sanctuary was 1928, and the singing carillon was completed in 1929 with 61 bells, the heaviest being 4 tons. The music is enjoyed throughout Forest Park, including summer public concerts on the grass in front. As a trustee, we engaged Simpson, Gumpertz, and Hager, worldwide recognized facade consulting engineer, to organize and assist in the maintenance of the exterior. One of Simpson Gumpert's key recommendations was the repair of the windows. They're telling us the windows need work. And in your package, there's this photograph of one of the windows being buckled, and a lot of the windows are buckled like that. We've done some of the work already of repairing these. Included in your package is a diagram of which windows would be included in our request. And this is Stained Glass Resources out of Hamden, Connecticut, and highly recommend them. We worked with them before. I've gone out, and I would suggest going out and looking at their work of charting, cleaning, reassembling, reletting, and resoldering the glass back in. Our timing would be upon your approval. We would put some plywood in the windows and they would ship the windows out for restoration. Vera, you want to pick it up from there?
Yeah, I think just to continue what Alan was saying about the building itself. The forefathers of the church wanted a church in Springfield that would inspire and nurture and exemplify the highest aspirations of humanity. And they thought of civic, academic, artistic, religious, and humanitarian. And all of these are represented in the stained glass windows in the church, in the sanctuary, actually. Trinity is a well-preserved gem and a source of pride in our city. Yes, there's one. Although many of Springfield's historic landmarks have been torn down through the years,
2 minutes.
Trinity is one that will continue to be saved and protected for the beauty and history that it holds. Maintaining this structure is costly and constant. A leaking roof takes precedence over a failing lead in a stained glass window. Although we've managed to do a decent amount of stained glass restoration work, thanks to donations from various church members. So with your help, we can continue to honor and remember such historical figures as Galileo, Gandhi, Schweitzer, Lincoln, Shakespeare, and Bach through the beauty of our stained glass windows.
Shakespeare with a bullet hole through the O in poetry. He's honored for poetry, bullet hole. Education with the knee needing glass repair. And all of those are in your package.
Okay,
Any
is that it? You're done?
That's it.
Okay, thank you. So, any questions from committee members? Juanita's up. Now, Gloria, is that your hand up, or there's a hand showing up in front of you? So I didn't know if you have a question. No.
I have a question. In reading the application, the stained glass windows that you're asking for funding of the non-secular, the secular ones.
Right.
What are you going to do about the others? Do you have
We-
money to repair those?
As Vera said, there's been donations. There was a
Okay.
bequest by Vera's husband. We just did 12 of them, I believe, 2 years ago. And as we suggested, we put plywood in, take the windows out, with the bad weather, and repaired 12 of them. And they come out so much brighter and clearer and better color.
I guess I missed that, but thank you.
Okay. And any other questions? All right, not seeing any hands up. Thank you very much. And
Thank you.
Moving on to the last presentation of tonight. This is 42 Sumner Avenue, Old Faith Church.
Hello, I'm Angela Park. I'm one of the owners of the building. So right now I have my business in there, which is a before and after school program, as well as a daycare that's on the first floor. So we have been sort of getting this building back, trying to get it back to where we can all use it and comfortably. So we've been putting, we have in the packet, we've put in for a new heating and cooling system. The sanctuary right now, which is going to be the home of the new Springfield Performing Arts Center, does not have adequate heat, and there is absolutely no cooling whatsoever throughout the building. So that's a big part of our budget right now, as well as, you know, we've already put in just about 200,000 into the building, repairing steam traps, the old steam system. You know, the church, when they were up and running, had very few members, so there really wasn't any funding coming in to maintain the building. So many of the steam traps blew in the building, causing a significant damage throughout. And then one of the issues, another issue that we applied for, is fixing the stained glass. The largest areas that need to be fixed and preserved is in the sanctuary. All the glass throughout the sanctuary is this stained glass is all diamond shaped. We are working with Stained Glass Resources out of Hamden as well. And the glass is in very poor condition. It's all buckling, in large chunks of it is just starting to come out. So what would happen through that process would be they would remove the glass, bring it to their center, and then they would clean everything, repair it, relet it, solder it together, and then bring it back to the Sumner Avenue location. So there's quite a bit of work. Some of the windows are in really good condition. The upper portions of the windows, the smaller pieces of glass, he said he would not be removing, but it's the larger areas from the bottom down all of it would need to be removed and fixed and
2
rehabbed.
minutes.
So I am looking to start the project just because, for one, the building is absolutely beautiful. I don't believe that it really, the money wasn't there before to maintain the building. I live right down the street from the building. And I just think it's a good resource for the community. So I'll leave it that's it.
Okay, thank you. Any questions of committee members? So I have a question on the budget.
Sure.
I know that our administrator, Karen, sent us a whole bunch of things recently in anticipation of the meeting. And I saw the many photographs of the windows, but
Yes.
I don't remember seeing a breakdown of the expense for fixing the windows. And it could simply be that I'm not tech savvy enough and I missed that JPEG or that attachment or whatever it was. So I guess the question is do we have a budget window by window or for some kind of breakout for the window repair?
So I got an estimate from the contractor. So for the whole sanctuary to be repaired, so what it would be is the whole sanctuary plus one office, because that's all we really could budget for. And I believe the estimate came out to be about it was 165,000, I believe, just for those areas. The rest of it, I'm gonna have to. We went through the first floor. The first floor of the community area, I would say, is in pretty good shape. But the second floor is a mess, and that's something I'm gonna have to tackle at another time. The church tried to do their best in preserving it. They ended up putting up some like plastic on the windows and things to sort of cut down, energy costs, but the second floor is definitely going to have to be something that is tabled for another time, just because we already have so much money put into this, and the heating system alone is going to be close to $500,000 for the building.
Okay, so I guess my bottom line is either, Karen, if indeed you are in possession of a window budget, if you could resend it to me and probably the other committee members, and if you're not, please get it from the applicant. I think we need to have something on paper that gives us an idea of what the window cost is.
You should have it, but I'll resend it. I think it's embedded and maybe that's why you had trouble pulling it up, but I'll send that off again.
Yeah, I always like things in paper, so that's why it should have been in the original application that I got in paper. But anyway, okay, so any other questions from committee members?
I have a question, Bob.
Yes, Gloria.
Are you requesting funding for the heating system and the windows?
I did put that in there because it was saying, I looked at the chart and I was going by the chart, and Karen had warned me about this, about the heating system, that a lot of the times that's not something that is likely to be funded. I'm trying to bring this portion, especially the sanctuary, back to working function, so that way we can use the sanctuary for events, for community events. So that was a yes.
Okay.
And I did also include in there in the packet that the proposal from the heating supplier that we used, also it had all the information of the equipment that would be used for the system, as well as costs, and the whole breakdown, everything was there. We actually ended up having, because we were looking at having a VRF system put in, and that is like, it's a mini split system. We actually had the manufacturer of the systems come out and measure the area multiple times, just because of the differences in the ceiling heights throughout the building, and all the different factors that go into being able to cool and heat that large of a building.
And
the building totals about 35,000 square feet.
And have you sought funding elsewhere?
I haven't. So right now I have, my partner and I, we own a few buildings in the city, and this is the first time I've ever gone before it, for a grant. But no, we put the money in ourselves to the building. I mean, my business is there. I'm fully committed to this building. I truly believe this building is going to be a great place for the community once we get it where we can use it.
Thank you.
We just did a fundraiser actually in this building this past weekend and raised a little over $17,000 for the Springfield Rowing Club. So I really believe it's going to be it's a great venue. It would be great for the community.
Let me suggest, if you have, since you don't seem to have done it yet, you may want to just have a conversation with the folks at the Office of Planning and Economic Development, the people on the Economic Development site. Oh, you met with Tim Sheehan.
Yes, we've met a little bit on this building, but like I said, we have a few other buildings in the city. So yeah, I could reach out to him again and see if maybe there's some other grants that would be available. And then, because he did tell me to reach out to the Historical Commission as well. Yeah,
well, the Historical Commission doesn't have any money, so.
Okay.
You have
then maybe I shouldn't be.
Anything you do to the outside of the building has to go before them because you're in the local historic district. But
Yep.
If he's sending you to the Springfield Historical Commission for money, they don't have any. And the Massachusetts
Okay.
Historical Commission only runs a program for nonprofits. So unless the owner of the building is a nonprofit, they don't have any money for you. Now,
I
depending on
understand,
how
yeah.
much you paid for the building and how much you're going to ultimately put into it, you might qualify for the historic tax credit. But that's just a tax
Okay.
credit. It's not an upfront grant.
Okay.
All right. And just one other question. At the beginning of your presentation, you talked about the former sanctuary being used by some performing arts group. What's the
Yes,
name of that?
so-
Is that an existing organization?
It is. It's actually my organization. It's Springfield Performing Arts Center. So we are the ones that I donated the space to like I said, the Pioneer Valley Rowing Club. They had their fundraiser there. But so I'm tying this into my business, my before and after school program. I believe strongly that arts and music and arts are dying with our young people, and there's no appreciation for the beauty of these old buildings, art, music, and I'm bringing that all back within my curriculum. I have right now about 140 children that are in my program, and we're teaching them arts, sciences, every technology-based program. So I'm hoping to use the sanctuary part as for for the community events, concerts, maybe an art installation, all different kinds of community events in this sanctuary area. I'm right now looking into even putting in bathrooms into the front part of the sanctuary to really be able to have a clear separation too in the building for the sanctuary, and then the before and after school, as well as the daycare that's downstairs.
Okay, thank you. And any other questions of committee members? No, hearing none. All right. Well, thank you very much for your presentation. And we are now going into regular committee business. Folks are welcome to stay, but at this point, we become simply our usual monthly business. All right. So the item on the agenda is to approve the minutes of the last meeting. Someone want to make a motion to approve?
I'll make that motion.
And someone want to second that? So we'll start the vote. It will be a voice vote. So Clinton?
Yes.
Gloria?
Yes.
Judy?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Juanita?
Yes.
Rhonda? There, Rhonda? All right. Moving on to Willie.
I'll abstain.
Okay, Willie's abstaining. I will vote yes. Rhonda, last chance. Otherwise, we'll just put you into non-voting. But we have a majority, so pass.
She just said yes. She waved yes.
She's waving her
I'm
hand.
sorry,
Okay.
my phone, for some reason, I couldn't unmute my phone.
Oh, okay.
We got you.
All right. All right. The other thing I just want to update you briefly is on the 2024 budget. I had hoped that we would have it put together by today, but we have not yet heard from the Department of Revenue as to what percentage the state contribution will be this year. We're expecting to hear soon. You know, it's hard for them to estimate because with the increased interest rates and the higher property values, there have been fewer home sales, and it is the filing fees at all the registry of deeds that go into the state trust fund that they divvy up every November to all the CPA communities. So they've told us that we need to be cautious in our projection, but they haven't given us a projection yet. Suffice it to say, we've talked to the comptroller's office, and he's suggesting that we use a $2 million figure for local tax revenue and probably a $40,000 figure on interest of what we raise. But until we hear from the Department of Revenue, we won't know what to budget as the state share. I'm hoping by the time we meet next, we will have that figure. So, Karen, do you have any administrative updates for us?
I do. Well, oops, sorry guys. Okay. So yes, a couple things. On the Historic Homes program, there were additional funds remaining in this last round of funding. So 2 more homes were contacted. And once the funding runs out for both of the programs that we're running, we'll have done 20 homes. So they're in some various stages of progress. So that's pretty exciting. As far as the Office of Planning pilot program for the Historic Homes program they run, there are still 2 homes that are outstanding. The legal department anticipates there will be some resolution on at least one of the projects, but they've been instructed to hold on to the remaining funds of $36,357 until at least the end of the fiscal year. And if you recall, one of those is in the legal department. The person had died that owned the building, and the other one is tied up in another legal matter. So we'll see what happens with that. 2 progress reports were submitted. Coincidentally, they were both from the museums. So the Kilroy House, which was the 2021 project, in the amount of $250,000. And I think this is phase 2. Contractors began removing the asbestos from the Yertle the Turtle side of the Kilroy House on March 30th. The work was paused because the lift was much too large for the project. A new lift was ordered and is arranged to be shared by both the abatement and the plaster contractors. Work resumed on April 27th with the staging of metal and wood scaffolding. Abatement will resume on May 4th, followed by the plaster work until approximately 3/4 of the building has been restored, all of the Yertle and Chestnut sides and part of the Edward Street side. The estimated completion date is July or August. Evidence of the original building color was found. It's the mustard yellow, and will be applied during the final stage with the Kim Wash finish. And then the second one is the Demore Art Museum. It's a 2022 project for $250,000. David Savage will begin work on the doors, which Rachel had mentioned earlier. So they're working on the doors on May 2nd, which was today, removing the doors and putting up temporary enclosures to protect the building while the work is taking place. The Tennessee marble has been sourced, ordered, and should be delivered soon. It won't be installed until the threshold is repaired. On April 27th, the ADA access began being added through the addition of concrete sidewalks that will make the Chestnut Street doors the main entrance, while the quad doors are repaired. Automatic openers have already been added to the Chestnut side doors. The purchase order for the windows on the Chestnut Street side of the building have been submitted. They will be built at Hope's Windows, and the estimated delivery and installation is in October or November. And that's all the progress reports received at this time. And that's all I have.
Thank you.
Thank you. Karen, just given that we built into all of our 2022 contracts specific dates, and have you, please, if you haven't already, emailed all of the other 2022 people under contract to remind them that their first quarterly report was due on April 15th. So we are now meeting next on May 16th. We agreed at the last meeting to have a special meeting, and this is where we start project deliberations. Your job between now and June 16th is to go over the applications, refresh yourself and refresh them in your minds. If you missed either of the two previous meetings, you can watch the interviews on Facebook. Look at the DOR allowable use chart to make sure that you think the projects are CPA eligible, and look at the priorities that we have set up in the plan under our 3 areas. And your job is to come in at the next meeting with your top 8 projects. They do not have to be prioritized. You can choose less. You cannot choose more. You can send them to Karen ahead of time. She will put them on a spreadsheet, and it gives us an idea of what people are thinking. And then we will discuss briefly all of the projects from top to bottom. What's happened in the past, and I am expecting it to happen again this year, is there'll be a few projects that show up on many people's top 8 list. There will be some projects that show up on nobody's, and there will be a whole bunch of projects in between. This is simply an order for discussion. This is not a vote. What we will do at a subsequent meeting after you've digested what we've talked about on May 16th is we will actually, you will have an opportunity to change your top 8 if you've heard something that changes your mind. And then starting in June, we will start voting on recommendations. So next time, the 16th, is discussion. So everyone clear on that?
Bob, Steve here. Have a question. When you say top 8, is that through all categories? I mean,
correct. You don't have to worry about which category. You could choose everything that's all a park project if you want.
Okay.
It's your top 8 projects.
Okay.
Now, just to refresh people's memory, in our budget every year we have to set 10% aside of the budget for historic, 10% for housing, 10% for open space and recreation. If by some chance we don't pick a recreation project that year, can't imagine that happening, but if by some chance we didn't, that 10% cannot be allocated for a housing project or for a historic project.
Also, Bob, in the committee, just so that Steve, that you know, I'll be sending out a spreadsheet by the end of the week of all the projects so that you can see how the format works and that might make it a little bit more clear.
that'd be helpful. Yeah, I'm not sure I know. Like for example, the gun block, is that historic preservation and not affordable housing, even though it has
Correct.
housing? Okay.
Correct.
And it's going to be
Correct.
like denoted as such on that chart, so we'll know. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think just for information, the only affordable housing that we have before us, this time is Gemini Homes, Old Hill Infill, the Kavanaugh project, and then I think that's it.
That's it. Yeah.
There are only 3.
Yeah. I guess that's right. Yeah.
But and on the spreadsheet, Karen sends out, she will include our own historic homes program. So if you can decide that you're going to include that in your top 8 or you're not going to include it. But besides the projects that we interviewed, there is our own project. Okie dokie. Now the exciting time begins at the discussion next 2 weeks. And if by some chance you can't be there, you can still send your top 8 to Karen and we will enter it. Because once again, this is not a vote. This is just to see how the projects are falling out.
And
I'm anticipating, say that, what Juanita?
No, I was just gonna piggyback on what you said. For new members, even though this sounds like that's not gonna work, because I was very skeptical the first time, and it was, and as Bob said, it's true. For some reason, it does work. And you'll see that most people, there is a top 8. There's actually a top 10, but
Yeah.
we go for the top
Yeah.
8. So
because the other reality is, and we won't know the exact figure that we have to recommend until the books close, but we will probably, I'm going to guess, have around $1 million, $2.5 million that we can recommend to City Council. So even if every project needed the max, the 250, that's at least 10 projects get recommended. And some of our projects are a lot less than 250. So, like last year, we ultimately recommended 15 projects. But your coming in with your top 8 gets us going on that process. All right. So with that, unless someone has something else they want to bring up, Gloria.
Yeah, I just wanted to let you know that I posted the meeting on Nextdoor, the one that you posted, Karen, and I put out there the listing of all the projects we have recommended since the inception of the committee. Because Nextdoor doesn't allow you to upload Word documents, it doesn't look as nice as I would have liked it to look, but it's out there. And that is in response to some chatter that was on Nextdoor about a month ago when people got their tax bills and realized there was the assessment for the Preservation Committee. And so rather than getting involved in the chatter, because it was all over the place, it was Sarno's fault, it was the legislature's fault, nobody heard of it, where did this come from? It's the individuals I don't know, they don't know anything, but anyway.
We vote for it.
So we just I just let the chatter go. I will say that Ralph Slate, who was a former member of the committee, did put out a response to some, and it was excellent and very accurate. So I thought it would be helpful to put out a list of projects, even though Karen puts out the listing and the links to go to the city website. At least this is for those who don't go out to the website.
Thank you, Gloria.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
It's probably too lengthy, but that's okay.
Yeah.
I don't know, where's next door? I don't even know what that is.
Oh, well, it's a if you type in next door, it's a neighborhood app, I guess you would say.
Yeah,
and so it's an app, Clinton.
Yes, it is.
Well, but
And
it's
it
more
goes
than an
by
app
neighborhoods.
Yeah, it's sort of a website. I'm going to call it that. But
yeah,
because to me, an app you only get to on your phone. Can you get to Nextdoor by your computer?
Yes.
But you can get to on your computer too.
Yeah.
Right, but it's not just, it is broken down by neighborhoods. So in my particular area, it's the Dorset something area. Where
Right.
you live, Gloria, it would be a different neighborhood. And so sometimes they overlap, but it's mainly for people who live in that particular neighborhood to kind of say what's going on in their neighborhood. And then there's the forums like what you're talking about, Gloria, that
right.
that
You know, who
overall-
lost a who, there's one that's called All Springfield. So that gets a lot more information, but who lost a dog? TJ O'Connor posts when there's dogs or cats for adoption. People post, say, hey, this person came out to my house and did work. They did a wonderful job. Can somebody help me? I need a contractor.
I'll tell you, every time I've called anyone on Nextdoor for a simple handyman project or whatever, I've always had good luck, and it surprises me. But
there's also a lot of nasty. There's also a lot of nasty stuff, I find.
Sure.
I stopped looking at it because
You know,
you
seen it.
know, strange kids walking down the street. You know,
Maybe we can keep track of the McKnight turkey where she's at. That's always good. You know, we got to keep.
Or the
figure out
raccoon
turkey.
that's troubling everyone. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so unless
Thank
we
you.
have anything else, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second? Wave your hands or say yes, and all right. Very good. Thank you so much for all your work tonight, and we'll see you in 2 weeks. You've got lots of homework now. All right.
Nice
All right.
seeing
bye.
everybody. Bye.
Goodbye.
bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.